Tell us when we're live.
Live.
Woohoo!
Perfect. Perfecto. Let's go share. If you're on there,
Share,
and
share, and share alike.
Go share
Kathy and
with
the crew's
us.
not
Oh,
in the,
wait.
It's not in the center.
No. Next, as you meant to start with that shot.
Oh, yes. A post-Halloween taste test, because we talked about it last week. And I voted stickers.
And there we
I
are.
like the one from Denton County. It's nice.
We're
I
live.
love it. Well, it's interesting because Dallas County did the same thing with putting specifically I voted in whatever county.
Are you sharing, Kathy?
I'm always sharing. What am I sharing? Joy,
Why am I not
laughter,
surprised that you asked that
get
question?
out the vote messages.
No, our show, silly goose. You've got a show to put on. Hello.
Oh, goodness gracious me, oh my. What day is it?
It's Friday.
Gabrielle's looking at me going, oh my gosh, how does this woman get out of bed and put her pants on every day?
Well, let's not talk about putting your pants on. It is Monday.
Well, what does that mean? Well, we've got a full show today. We've got a full
Yeah.
show. We've got Dr. Norm Clothier. We've got Congressman Van Taylor. We've got special guests from the Trump team, Keenan Williams. And then we have Patti Giolot and our mental health moment team with Acadia Healthcare. And just super
Giolot.
excited. Super excited. Big full day today.
I like saying Giolot.
What? Yes, we have Reese's Peanut Butter Cups versus Dove. Taste test.
The taste test.
Also, if we get time, we're going to have a shout out for Sean Connery, who passed away this weekend. So,
Towards the end.
towards the end of the show. Mwah, good morning. Love y'all. Happy Monday.
It's Monday, Friday, someday, something. Special edition day.
There you go.
Tune in. Mental health, too. Talking politics and election.
Oh, JP, you crack me up. It's something.
Dude,
it's someday.
something. It's someday.
It's someday.
It's a someday on a money day.
Live from VentureX Studios, it's JP, Kathy, and the crew.
And the crew. Good morning, everybody,
The
and
crew,
welcome to JP,
crew,
Kathy,
crew,
and the crew. And
crew,
it is Monday
crew.
morning, big Monday morning.
Yes.
Probably one of the biggest Monday mornings we're going to encounter in a long time because it predates the election, which is happening tomorrow. Today is
Amen, my
normally
friend.
our Medical Mondays. However, we have decided that we're going to do a special edition for the election. We will have Congressman Van Taylor talking the election and the
Yes.
importance of that at 7:50. At 8 o'clock, we've got
Yes.
Keenan Williams in studio. He is the Texas representative for President Donald Trump. And we're going to talk with him, and then we're going to have a very interesting mental health moment. Love this idea. Great job,
Was
Steve Dunn.
Thrilled when they came up with
And
this.
Patti. We're not talking about whose politics. We're not talking about any of that. We're going to be
Right.
talking about how do you cope with the mental stress that comes
With an election.
with this election.
This one in particular.
And because everybody's so divisive,
Right.
so this isn't going to be a conversation about who supports what or
Oh,
who
no, no, no,
supports
no, no.
who, or who agrees with what. But it's going to be the angst, the anxiety, the possible depression, the potential in rioting, all of those things.
Families and friends
that
have
don't get along.
I mean, think about it, and you and I, we know people who have blocked family members and or good friends from social media. Families are not getting together at Thanksgiving because they're so upset about this election cycle, and and also you add COVID and 2020 in, which has been about the most jacked up year ever. It's a different time, and I think part of it is, and I can't wait to hear from the professional, but with social media, you get so many folks who say stuff they would not normally say to somebody's face.
Right. So Tyler Harrell will be joining us. He's the CEO of Greenhouse
Yes.
Treatment Center, brought to you by Acadia Healthcare for all of your treatment needs, whether it be inpatient, outpatient. If you need someone to call to get something off your chest, Chris Goetz is
Yes.
definitely your go-to.
Chris is phenomenal.
With Acadia Healthcare.
She's a big member of the crew. We love her dearly, so she can help get you to the right people. And she can also come out and she gives speeches about mental health and how she has all kinds of great training. She's also a licensed therapist, so she's amazing and can definitely help. And that's one of the things we want to make sure people know, that there is help and you can keep it private and you don't have to tell people about it. But if you want to tell people about it, chat with us about it on here on JP, Kathy, and the Crew.
Do we have Dr. Clothier yet? Because I definitely want to get him on to talk about Thanksgiving and the meal. So, you and I can talk about that. We've talked about it in the past.
Thanksgiving and the meal.
We'll jump Dr. Clothier on here in a minute.
Yeah, let us know as soon as he pops on.
And he talks about this all the time. And with COVID-19, Kathy, I think people have forgotten there are other things going on medically with people.
Yes.
You yourself have a family member. Well,
Yep.
yeah, I mean,
have
you
a family member who had a seizure last night, and we need prayers. Not quite sure what's going on with the brain. There's always and there's things. There's just simple things like I've put off shoulder surgery because of COVID. Right. I'm as soon as the election's over, I'm going to get my blood work that should have been done end of July, beginning of August. But I know people who have put off some pretty significant things or not gotten tested for some pretty significant things because they're concerned about COVID.
Right. And so, and again, we also forget people are dying from things other than COVID.
Right. I mean, people still get cancer and get the flu and get pneumonia and die.
Well, and I would think that even, heart failure, heart disease is probably still one of the amongst the top killers in our nation.
A dear friend of ours had to put off her heart surgery 3 months, like 90 plus days. And once the doctors did go in, it was very, 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 very serious. And has made a huge improvement in her life. But again, because of COVID, certain things are being pushed off.
Exactly. And so I guess my point is that Thanksgiving is around the corner. A lot of times people have a tendency to go overboard and eat a lot more than what their system normally would have to intake.
Yes.
And Dr. Clothier is going to talk about what that has done to people in the past. I mean, it could be an emergency room visit.
Yes.
Just from the amount of food that you eat.
Well, and the type of food or, how much alcohol you ingest kind of a thing. And then one of the things I want to ask Dr. Clothier about is with COVID, do you still get your full family out and about and around? I mean, I know what our thoughts are with my family. Do you wear masks while you're in, if you're in your sister's or your aunt's or your cousin's house? Do you come in wearing masks because some of your family members aren't your immediate family who you see every day?
Well, I know that in California, there are very specific rules. In fact, I had to learn those rules because, of course, we're considering going out to Fresno to see our family out there for Thanksgiving.
Don't they have a rule of like 3 people?
No, 3 households.
Right.
So you can have 3 of the same family households under one
roof.
But you have to remain masked the whole time inside. Wow. And if you have more than that, you have to go outside. And then they're one of the rules.
We have way more than 3 family households that come together for Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Well, now that's not a Texas rule; it's California.
Oh,
rule.
and I know. Thank
I've
goodness.
got 5
no,
brothers and sisters, and we've got 5 different families.
5 different households.
My wife's side has 7.
Well, and Chuck's family, in all seriousness, almost has 100 people in it, just in the immediate.
I know
family.
a family. They have 8 children. 8 children. So you got to tell some of them, sorry guys, you got to go sit in your room.
Right. Well, and so here's the thing, right?
And Dr. Clothier said he received the link. He was having a little bit of trouble logging in, so hopefully he'll be on soon.
So one of the things too is if you, let's say for example, you only have 1 bowl of mashed potatoes. In California, you are going to have to hire a server that will come in wearing a mask.
Wait, what?
Yes, with gloves. Because you're only taking out of 1 dish.
Well, can't you have a family member do that for you?
You got to hire a server.
Oh, good night. Another reason I'm glad I don't live in
have to
California.
have a server.
James.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have to have disposable ware because you're not allowed to go back for seconds with the same plate, fork, and knife.
And, I think that would probably be a best practice. That's probably something we'll do for our, get-together. But, some of the rules in California, there's some great memes out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
in regarding what's going on in California.
So Dr. Clothier will tell you not to not participate in Thanksgiving. Don't partake in pumpkin pie and turkey and mashed potatoes and dressing. But like
Just
he
don't
does everything
overdo
else,
it.
he says moderation.
And he will tell you that just because it's Thanksgiving or Christmas or Easter and it's a big family get together doesn't mean you need to blow it out completely.
Right. And he'll also tell you it doesn't hurt to get up and go for a walk after you're done eating.
He will absolutely.
I'll walk over to the buffet
And Dr.
and
Clothier,
walk back to my chair.
I hope right now Dr. Clothier is listening and is very proud of us because we are literally quoting Dr. Clothierisms
Yeah.
over the years. So he might be like, hey, these two kids actually listen to me.
We did.
He's almost here.
All right.
But yeah. Okay, so we have Dr. Clothier then this morning. Good morning,
He's
Dr.
just
Clothier.
joining.
Okay, very good.
Are you there?
Does he have himself unmuted? So while we get the sound.
Well, in the meantime, hopefully he's hearing us and he's hearing that we are giving all of the Dr. Clothierisms out there regarding the holidays. And he's also going to talk to you, I would imagine. Another thing he tells us about, and I think this is always so smart, and that is make sure that you've got people watching the kids. Kids aren't just off and about by themselves without adult supervision. And we saw him there he is. Good morning, Dr. Clothier. Sorry we had trouble with the link. He said he has no.
I don't know if you can hear me, but I can't hear you.
Yay! Success.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Success. We can hear you. I hope you've been able to
Oh, I see a
hear.
picture.
Dr. Clothier, JP and I have been actually literally giving quotes of yours from past Thanksgivings. We did listen to you.
We listen, maybe not always take that great advice.
He said
but
you
we
should.
do
He said
listen.
you should go for a walk, and I said, "Yeah, I'll walk from my chair to the buffet, back to my chair."
Oh, no. I
Can
don't
you
think
hear
that's
us,
what
Dr.
it means.
Clothier? So Dr. Clothier can't hear
He
us.
can't
He
hear
can't
us.
hear us.
So we're checking, Dr. Clothier. God, you got to
Tell
love
him.
Zoom
Use your
technology
point
on Monday
here.
mornings.
Wait just a minute. Point here.
Just 1 minute. Oh,
working it.
no,
We're
I'm like,
We're working it.
All right. Why, thank you, Gail. I'm looking dapper
We're
in my
working it.
jacket.
Gail likes that jacket
I
on
guess
you.
so. I like it too.
Gail likes that jacket on you.
Did y'all see that the Trump train that followed Biden bus is being investigated by the FBI now? Have not seen that. Need to.
Oh, I'm not.
That's hilarious, though. So I just need to look that up, Fred. That's funny. But yeah, and it's funny. Donald says that's commie-phoria for you, and to think they're all coming to our Texas. So, all right. So we got Dr. Clothier. We're going to get him back on here in just a moment.
Okay.
But again, and Thanksgiving, it's a time for giving thanks, and you're going to have far left liberals trying to politicize Christopher Columbus. They've already done that. Christopher Columbus and him coming over here and beating down the natives, and I mean it's going to be an interesting conversation.
Well,
with liberals,
and I think a lot.
Can you hear us, Dr. Clothier?
Yes.
Yay!
There we go.
Success. We
I heard.
were saying that you would be proud of us because while we were getting you on, and we're sorry about the technical issue today. While we were getting you on, JP and I were literally quoting Dr. Clothier quotes from past Thanksgivings and holidays about not to overeat, keep an eye on the kids, and all that kind of good stuff. So you'd be
Moderation.
proud of us.
You've
We've
been
listened.
listening?
We have.
Yes, we have.
Wow, that-
Go.
We have.
that is amazing.
Don't go to the
I
couch.
have a consistent message.
You do.
Is don't overeat. But this year, I did think, there's this little deal going on, COVID-19. Not sure if you had heard
Small.
about it.
Hadn't
but
heard about that one.
It's just been really pretty low key. But because of that, the CDC has put out some guidelines about Thanksgiving gatherings that I thought we'd talk about because it is November 2nd and Thanksgiving's coming up this month. It's in November, if you remember that from prior years too. And so I think you need to begin to prepare now. And I did mention, and will mention again, these are CDC guidelines because we don't basically want you to kill the messenger.
Right.
I have a little self-preservation and feeling. So I'm going to deflect any of the complaints to the CDC and to health authorities. They're far above me. But One of the things that's being mentioned, of course, is because of the fears of COVID-19 is trying not to spread the virus. So you really need to basically prepare about 2 weeks ahead. And by that, I mean, you want to make sure you're not exposed to anyone that you think might give you the virus. I would really encourage people, if you're going to go visit loved ones, what they're recommending is keep it down to 2 or 3 family sets. Now, that's hard to define. You know, my family set is 18 people. And so you don't necessarily want 54 people to be gathered indoors at a family gathering with say a grandparent who's 80 plus. You know, those are the people at risk of having the virus carried to them. So you have to define how you want to manage the numbers. You should wear masks. And that's going to be the one that I think really frustrates people. Other than eating, you really should have a mask on. If there's any way you can be outdoors, and who knows what the forecast will be.
It could be snowing and icing and 20 degrees, or it could be 85. We are in Texas.
Absolutely. So if it's a warm day, have your gathering outside. That's going to be a lot safer. Even if it's a cool day, you should have a couple of windows open and maybe a fan blowing air through the house. You really want to get the airflow going, and it'd be a good time. Not that an air filter really can do much about the virus, but just for a general tune-up, you want to do air filters at home, replace them, kind of get things cleaned up anyway for the sake of people visiting. But what I mean by preparing for a couple of weeks, and it really is going to be on us before we realize it, I think, be very quick. You really need to plan to not pick up the virus in any risky way, and not have any risk that would cause you to pick up the virus before you go visit your family. So I would really encourage people for 14 days before Thanksgiving, you want to really minimize any exposure to, restaurant, store, groups of friends. Of course, the big ones are sporting events and bars that seem to be a higher risk. Even church is a risk, unfortunately. But if you can isolate for about 14 days, I think that's your best option to reduce the risk of infection. The challenge with testing, as we've reviewed before, because I've had some people say, I'm just going to get a test before I go see my elderly grandparents for Thanksgiving. The problem is many of the tests take 3 to 5 days to come in. It's a little bit hard to predict when you'll get it, especially a holiday week. And if you're exposed, an hour after you have the test may be a false sense of security if it's negative. And you then, basically could still take the virus to your family member. So you really need to be careful about that. People who are flying to family, I really don't even know what to recommend other than maybe consider just not doing that. Because I think by the time you have, testing maybe, and then a flight with who knows who's been where, and then an elderly at risk family member, it's really a challenge. So I think you may have to seriously consider, and this is where you don't want to kill the messenger, seriously consider a virtual Thanksgiving. I know that sounds crazy, but you also don't want to be back a week or two later for a funeral. And, that's just about as blatantly as I can put it. Those at risk are the elderly. And I realize death rates are not really high, but they're 100% if that's your family member who passes away. So that's, you really just don't want to be in that spot where you're putting family at risk. You don't want to put anybody at risk if you don't need to, but it's especially difficult with a family gathering.
Right. So you do recommend, no matter where you are, multiple households of families getting together, that you keep a mask on with the exception of eating.
Yes.
Okay.
I really do, because you still don't know who that asymptomatic carrier could be. And again, that, they could have had a test, they may be negative 5 days before. And then, if you have the susceptible person, especially coming in from different parts of the country, and all over the country right now, there are cases. I mean, it's just going up and up and up. And so, by the time Thanksgiving rolls around, I think the cases are going to be higher than they are today, which is pretty high. And so I think you've just got to be realistic about trying to protect people. Wash your hands a lot. Try to keep your distance. It's awfully hard not to be close as a family.
Which that's so hard. Like Dr. Clothier, what about hugging your family? I mean, we're ginormous huggers. And kissers, everybody hug, kiss, everything. Do you say
Yeah,
you
it's odd
don't
'cause
really
I've
do
always
that
thought of
as
you
much?
kind of a normal size. But
Dr.
you know,
Clothier.
here's the problem: is that you do that and you have an infection in your family, everybody's going to feel terrible, and it's just hard. It is.
It's
This one of the
tough.
hardest things. It's almost like having a job where you have to work on Thanksgiving or something. You're going to miss it. Everybody hates that. Some jobs just go on during that time.
Right. Right.
And it's really a significant challenge. And that's why I think you guys start planning now. And honestly, you really should have the discussion now as a boy, when we get together, are we going to hug or, be close or wear masks? Because I think that it's very possible if you disclose all that or discuss it and decide, you may have
great
family
advice.
members that literally decide, as much as I'd love to be there, I just don't want to risk that myself. So you need to forewarn them too. I'd hate it if we got together as a family, had some family members that came in and said, oh, I didn't realize we're not wearing masks or going to all be indoors all day, several hours in the same room. If I had known that, I wouldn't have come. That's why I think you got to start planning today. Basically.
I think that's fantastic advice. I mean, as always, you give such great advice to the crew, and we appreciate you so much. But I think you're right. I think to avoid hurt feelings, because it's nothing personal. We would all like this to be last Thanksgiving where everybody was together. Everybody's, here, I'll serve you some food. I'll do this. Oh, here, no, I'll clean your plate. I'll take it. I'll take your plate to the sink. But it's a very different situation this year. And I think to avoid hurt feelings, they're thinking, oh my gosh, well, why didn't they didn't, they grabbed themselves a bottle of water or a glass of wine. They didn't grab me one, and they normally do. I think you avoid a lot of those hurt feelings, especially if you've got a family member who feels very strongly about a mask and your family's not going to be wearing masks. So I think you're right. You can avoid the hurt feelings ahead of time.
Be as proactive as you can.
That's great.
The other challenge that's huge is that this is probably going to be the first planned gathering for a lot of people in 7, 8, 9 months because, they maybe didn't have anything. Should I be doing that too? Sorry.
I'm doing baseball signs to JP.
But anyway, if let's say you last got together on New Year's Day and you're talking about 11 months out, and kids coming home from college and, grandparents rolling in or aunt and uncle, that you haven't seen in 5 years. Well, you're going to really magnify the risk factors by having not been together through the year and then suddenly getting together. It's an emotional response. The problem is you don't want that emotional response to become a viral plague.
Right.
And that is the challenge.
Well, and let's peel that onion back even one strand further away from COVID. Get your flu shot.
Yes.
Yes.
And if you get it this week, if you haven't gotten it yet, get it this week because you need a couple weeks for it to really kick in and give you a full immunity. You get a little immune response early, but you need a couple of weeks. Thanksgiving's the 4th Thursday in November. So that's, you got basically 4 weeks to form a response instead of you don't want to get it like 2 days before and not.
I always forget about that with the flu shot.
Yeah,
I'm glad you remind. Yeah, that's one of the. You're right. It takes a while for it to get in your system and actually be effective. That's good
you have
advice
to form
there.
antibodies, against the antigen, and that formation of antibodies takes a little time. And so, plan now, do it now if you haven't done it. I think many people have already been, really responsive to the flu shot this year in terms of getting it because of the COVID discussion. But, I know a lot of people would love to get their flu shot in October and will be coming in and say, oh, almost forgot to get it. So go ahead and get it. Get it this week. No need to put it off till next week.
Right.
And then just go ahead and get it and be ready for the holiday. Be ready to have an immune response. So that you don't carry the flu to a family member too.
Well, fantastic advice, Dr. Clothier. Fantastic,
well, Dr.
as
Clothier,
always.
It is 7:54, and I know that you have patients already at your door. I see the shadows.
Yes, absolutely.
We hear
Coming
them
in like
clawing at the
zombies.
door.
Coming in
Yeah,
like
that's
zombies.
what they're clawing
We're
at the
gonna
door.
claw back. We're into the healing thing here.
Well,
Sounds
have
good.
a blessed week,
Dr.
Dr.
Clothier,
Clothier.
thank you so much for joining us again on this Monday morning, and God bless you and your family. And
Thank you.
we'll
We're
see
in
you.
prayer about the election and
yeah.
our country.
Amen.
And God bless America.
Yeah.
literally.
Yes.
Well, we'll definitely
Yes.
get your take on, if you want to share that, on the election and the feelings maybe
Next
some of your
Monday.
patients have come in with next Monday.
Yes, I'm sure we'll see responses one way or the other.
I think
There's
so.
Yes.
never a doubt.
yes.
Yep. Well,
All
God
right,
bless
thanks,
you,
Dr.
sir.
Clothier.
All right,
Have a
Dr.
good
Clothier.
one.
Bye.
All right, that's Dr. Norm
Great.
Clothier.
That's great advice.
It is, but now we're shifting gears and going right into
Special
Congressman
edition.
Van Taylor as we've created a special edition right before the election. On the election, we're bringing Van Taylor on, our congressman here in House District 3, and does just a CD3, pardon me.
Congressional District 3. Right.
Well, to me, they're House representatives still. So, but anyways, point is, we're going to bring him in. Then we've got Keenan Williams that'll be joining us as well at 8:00. He'll be in studio.
Right.
So, or
And
he's
then
supposed
we
to be
still
in
have our
studio.
mental health moment, but it's even a special edition. It's talking about the mental health component of not only elections, but this election in particular, JP.
Right.
Yeah.
And so let's get him on, Charles, as soon as you can. Can you hear us, Congressman Taylor? I think it feels like the
Yes,
technology.
I can.
There
How are
we
you
go.
guys?
Good morning.
Good
Good morning, good morning, and good morning.
And there it is, the trademark. I love it. That's fantastic.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
He's the only person who comes on our show that has his own unique opening.
Unique sign-on. That's right.
Well, and that's because he's a Marine. Marines know how to sign
There
on.
you go.
They leave nobody behind. And Congressman Van Taylor leaves nobody behind. I love that. So, Van, tell me this. What is the mood amongst your colleagues as this election begins to become real? I mean, tomorrow it's happening. And what has been the mood over this last couple of weeks leading up to tomorrow?
Sure. Well, I mean, the record turnout across Collin County, across Texas, and really across the country just tells you how engaged the American people are in this incredibly important election. And, you know, the number of Republican voters coming out in the final days, you know, just more and more and more and more is really exciting for me and for my friends in Collin County. We're excited about the kind of energy that we see on the ground that we're seeing every day. And I know that, you know, there's going to be a huge turnout tomorrow. If you have not yet voted in one of the most important elections of our lifetime, tomorrow, November 3rd, that's it. That's the last chance you've got to vote. You had 18 days of early voting. Tomorrow from 7 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock in the evening, 7 to 7, 12 hours. In Collin County, you can vote anywhere in the county. We have all the early voting locations, and we have even more voting locations. You go to vantaylor.com, got a list of that, got a map of that. Well, we have real wait times, so you can see if you want to check before you go and say, hey, I'm at work, I'm on my way home, or I'm going to go pick up the kids or go to the grocery store, or actually pick up the kids at school. Which polling location should I go to? I was in McKinney, Texas, knocking on doors yesterday and talked to a voter who said, I said, well, your nearest polling location is at the gay library here in McKinney. She said, no, I work down in Plano. I'm going to go to the administration building on 15th in Independence. So that's a great place to go. Both of those are great places to vote. They're all open. You can vote anywhere. We're lucky in Collin County that the county has invested the money so that people can vote anywhere they want. And we've got the technology to tell you where the waits are, so you can avoid the waits and go to polling locations that are green. My guess is it'll be easy to vote all day. So don't miss your chance. Make your plan. Go to vantaylor.com. Make your plan. And finally, if you want to participate, if you want to be a poll greeter, if you want to help, get out the vote, we're actually doing phone calls tonight to those last few voters that haven't quite gotten to the polls. Send an email to Anna, A-N-N-A, at vantaylor.com, or go to the vantaylor.com website, and you can see right there You can volunteer and be a poll greeter. We're looking for poll greeters. If you just want to spend half an hour, or 2 hours, whatever it is, you can greet voters and just encourage them and smile at them and say thank you for voting.
And it's just that easy to do. Sorry.
I'm gonna hayaka you.
I know you were gonna say something. It is just that easy to do, and it's fun.
I'm gonna hayaka you.
No, I don't even
I'm
know
gonna
what that
hayaka you.
means.
So Van, real quick. So again, at vantaylor.com, people can go and actually find out what the wait times are at the polling locations.
Yep. We've got, so that'll take you to the county website, the Collin County elections website. Literally shows you on a map every polling location in Collin County, and it has a green light for everything that's a 20-minute wait or less. I have seen virtually no waits for the last 2 weeks, so I think that huge turnout, but there was pretty heavy voting the first couple of days. But it's kept a really good pace. A lot of people turn out. We were at a record turnout. We're at an all-time highest turnout. And when you go vote tomorrow, you'll be breaking the record because you're going to be the next voter and breaking it to get it that much higher. So if you want to be a record breaker, tomorrow is the day to do it, November 3rd. Go vote, make your voice heard. And you know what? If you have voted, make sure that all your friends and all your family have voted. Go on social media, remind them to vote, give them the vantaylor.com link. If you're at the office and I always do this, at the office, just walk through the hallway and say, hey, have you voted? Have you voted? And just, go down the hallway and encourage them to get out and vote. We want a really big turnout. I think things look really good. For Republicans in Collin County. I'm excited about Election Day tomorrow. And grateful to every single person who's gone out, who's already voted, who's already cast their ballot. And there are some people that are, they're holding off, they're waiting. And so tomorrow is the day. It's your last chance. And so go vote.
Well, real quick, there's not straight party ticket voting, and this is the one thing that it's so important when you're poll greeting, because there are people like, oh, honey, I'm in and out in 2 seconds. I just vote straight party. And I'm like, but this year you're unable to. Maybe give you a slate card that has our candidates on it. Same thing when we were out knocking on doors. So you don't, and what's interesting, Congressman, there were several people who they voted at the top of the ticket for Democrat, but because of something your office had done for them, they switched over. So I think it's going to be interesting to see all the numbers at the end, and we look forward to talking with you after the election about how not having straight party ticket voting fared this year. What kind of impact does it have?
Sure. Well, yeah, it'll take a little bit of time to figure that out. I will say I've gotten a couple dozen texts, calls, emails from people who said, I vote all Democrat, but Van, you were a great congressman. I cast my ballot for you. And that's obviously very humbling and means a lot to me. And then there are other voters that say, hey, I feel I like divided government. I'd like to see a Congress that's Republican to kind of keep a president in check. And then there are other people that just recognize Collin County is a special place. We've got the lowest tax rate of any county in the state. We have safe streets. We have good schools. We are blessed to live in this county. It's an economic juggernaut for America, and there are a lot of great leaders that make that possible. And people recognize that. People understand, hey, I get it. I've got a good county commissioner's court. I've got a great courthouse. I've got some great judges there. The courthouse in Collin County. If you haven't had a guest on to talk about this, you should definitely talk to the Judge Miskell. Actually presided over the first Zoom jury trial in America that took place right here in McKinney, Texas. And that is not an accident. That is a lot of hard work by the commissioner's court, by the judges, by the clerks, by the sheriff, by the legislators to allow us to be in a place that we could make the kind of electronic courthouse that we have. It's won many national awards. It's really exciting. I think Judge Miskell, she is actually personally winning a national award for her work in this. And we have a great courthouse. And so a lot of people, hey, you know what? When I go down the ticket, I'm happy with where Collin County's headed. I like the direction that we're in. We're in a good place, and I'm going to make sure that it stays Republican because Republicans have led the county for 30 years. I think they've done a good job, and I certainly went and cast my ballot to entrust them to continue to lead our county.
Amen.
So, and I will go vote tomorrow. I like voting on election day. I was going to early vote, and I thought, no, my tradition has always been on election day. And so I'll go stand in line, and I will go vote and visit with people in front of me and behind me. But yeah, I'm going to do that tomorrow. We do have a question that came in, and this is an interesting question. I'm curious as what your thoughts are on this. And it came in from Donald Rutledge, and I know that you know Donald, and he's spoken to you.
Yeah.
What kind of impact will it have on the election, like these removal of historical statues, and being seen as kind of a Democrat kind of thing to do, because liberals are the ones screaming and yelling about removing them? Will that have an impact on Republican congressmen across the country?
Well, I think that a lot of Americans, myself included, are horrified by the less, and it is I want to emphasize, this is the far left, but it is taking over the Democrat Party and their desire to tear down America. And, and it started with Confederate statues, but now it's gone out to, we want to take down statues of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. I mean, and at some point you're tearing at the founding principles of this country, the idea that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I mean, that's the first sentence of the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. And so, certainly I'm a big believer in standing up to defend our history and our heritage. I was a history major in college, and I know the importance of understanding history and remembering it. And I think it's important to know that we know, because it's happened in this country, that the greatest anti-poverty program in the history of the world is the American Free Enterprise System. And we also know, because it's happened, that a command control economy, a socialist economy, doesn't work. And the Soviet Union proved that. England went that way, and they went back. I mean, that's how Margaret Thatcher was elected, to get rid of socialism, to end that. And so we know that socialism is a failure, because it's really just a con to say, put me in charge. I want an autocracy, but I don't want to tell you it's an autocracy. It's really for you. It's for the people. But really, it's just, I want to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you how to live your life. I think we have a superior form of government where we get to determine our leaders. And I feel very blessed for the opportunities I've had to serve in public life for the people of Collin County.
Well, and we appreciate you again. So many people, and it'll happen again today. How can I get my congressman to react to me like Congressman Taylor and his staff do? 100% meeting policy.
Well, you got to prioritize that.
Well,
and he does.
And he does.
He prioritizes that.
Van realizes he's fantastic.
Well, he's fantastic.
He realizes,
and he's a Marine.
Yes, and he realizes he works for we the people, and he and his staff put that first and foremost. So we appreciate you. We look forward to having an election wrap up with you here in a couple of weeks. So
sure.
Well, hopefully the week after. Hey, Van,
next Wednesday.
Where will you be Tuesday night so people can come out and say hi and high five you and all that good stuff?
I'm going to do a small event in Frisco, Texas. And I think there are half dozen or so elected officials that will be there. And so I'll be in a small war room, socially distanced, wearing a mask. So, follow us on Facebook or Twitter. We'll be talking about it on tomorrow night, election night. Hard to believe it's already here. But again, this is your chance.
Yes.
And if you have already voted, tell your friends, put it on Facebook, put it on Twitter, text a few people, tell some people at the office, make sure everybody turns out. And there are in Collin County, there are over, at least in the 3rd district, there are over 150,000 Texans that have registered to vote that have not yet voted. So
right.
there are plenty of people that could come out
Absolutely.
and vote. So don't let it be you. And don't let it be, your children, your spouse, your parents. Don't let it be
right.
your friends. Make sure they all get to the polls. They all vote. And they can do it safely and quickly. It's very quick at the polls. And they actually will, everybody I've talked to had a good experience and said it was quick. So, I mean,
And I
just
think
going
it'll
out
be
there
the
and go
same. It's
vote.
very organized. Our election judges and alternate judges and clerks are doing a phenomenal job. Again, and if people get out tomorrow, they'll be able to see you at the polls as well, because I know you'll be out there poll greeting like you have been. And
I will be at one of the 100 polls.
one of the 100 plus,
I'll
you
be-
know.
But let me say this: I have a 100% meeting policy, and I've had over 800 meetings as a member of Congress with my constituents in the last almost 2 years now, and so you too could have that meeting. You could be number 801
at the polls. I love it. Thank you for your service, Congressman. We really appreciate you. We really do.
Van, have a fantastic day.
And that's
Thanks for joining us.
vantaylor.com, right?
Yep,
Yes, I already put it on the
vantaylor.com.
feed.
We've got it on there.
VanTaylor.com, and you can go and just email Anna, ANNA, at VanTaylor.com if you're interested in being a poll greeter, if you're interested in making phone calls, if you're interested in just being a runner. We need people to run around and, get lunch for volunteers.
Oh, absolutely. Drop off
and hand
bottled
off
water.
yard signs and all
Yep.
that stuff. So if you know what, I don't really want to be poll greeting. I'm more of a type B personality, but I'll run around. I'll drive. I'll get people, and we need people to drive people to the polls. That's
Yes.
another thing.
Yes.
We have actually been, people called up say, hey, I can't get to the polls myself, and we'll help you get to the polls. So no matter how you're going to vote, want to see you out there.
Absolutely.
It should be a beautiful day. No excuses. There are other parts of America where they might be going through rain and snow, but not in Collin County, Texas.
Right. Thank you so much. We appreciate your service and look forward to you serving us for at least another 2 years. I know I've cast my vote for you, as have my family members. I know JP will be casting a vote for you tomorrow. So we just appreciate you being such a big part of the crew and being part of our radio family.
I mean, didn't care.
Great to be with you guys.
All right, Van,
All right,
thank you.
thanks,
Take care.
Van.
you.
See y'all later. Okay, bye.
All right.
Very fortunate to have such great access and easy access to somebody like Congressman Taylor. Again, we hear over and over and over people saying, wow, so he returns phone calls and you don't get a voicemail when you call into his office. And if you send an email, you actually get a response right away and then you get your problem solved very quickly. And the sad thing is that's how it should be, JP. I know when you were an elected official, I know when I was an elected official, if I had to stay till 10 o'clock on a Friday night returning phone calls or emails, that's what you do. Again, we're just very blessed to have Congressman Van Taylor. And like he said, come out and see him at the polls, come out and poll greet. We still have people out and about campaigning today, and they'll be campaigning tomorrow. Come hang out at headquarters with us. Oh, we can still hear y'all. Charles,
Oh,
thanks.
wow,
I was
that's pretty cool.
he's training Chambrielle, our wonderful intern, and I'm like,
Yes,
I'm picking up
Bree
good
the
tips.
intern.
I'm picking up good tips.
All right.
But we've
Those
just
are
got
trade secrets, Kathy.
Yes, I was gonna say we don't want to hear that.
Kathy,
Well, that's why I told him to shut his mic off.
That's JPKC Network trade secrets, by the way.
Well, again, the point is there are tons of opportunities, and and it's fun, and there's a job for everybody out there to volunteer and to work at the polls, and it's important. Some of these races could be decided literally with a handful of votes. Even here in Collin County, we've got races that might be a few votes one way or the other that determine if we keep a good, solid elected conservative in office or not. And so every vote counts. Every vote counts.
It does. And so here's the thing, right? And this is something to kick around. So people have gone out to vote in droves. The last number I heard, and I was trying to look it up quickly, over 60 million people early voted.
Worldwide, state, countrywide.
It was 90.
Well, I haven't gotten
that.
that number yet.
That's wild.
Like I said, I tried looking up the numbers, and I'm not finding the numbers yet. But I've heard over 60 million people have early voted. The last number I truly heard was about 62 million. That number could have grown since then. But here's the big thing, right? The demographic. Who is voting? And the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris campaign has gone into panic mode. And here's why. The demographic is not rolling their direction. No. They expected a much higher Black and Latino turnout than what has actually turned out.
And they've expected the Blacks and Latinos who are headed to the polls to vote Democrat, and a lot of them are not.
Well, and of course, we'll find that out for a fact,
Right,
on
but some of
election,
these who have
on
been
election
polled,
night.
it's interesting. Even when I was working the polls the last couple of hours of early voting on Friday, there was a group of Democrats, and they would approach other black people, and they would say, "Well, what there was the black lady in particular approaching other black people, and they were like, "Oh, voting this way this time," and they would come over and get a slate card from us. And the other side was real angry. They were real angry, like the assumptive, like, well, you're black, so you have to be voting our way. And they came over and they would tell us, I'm supporting y'all this time, and this is why. And Trump's done this, that, and the other, and the president's done this. And so I think it's been very interesting dynamics.
It is. Well, so nationwide, and let's go to Georgia, where Georgia's become a truly a state up in the air, a battleground state. So both the president and Kamala Harris were in Georgia, in the northern suburbs. And again, President Trump, in the last 2 weeks, including his wife, have done a real good job of trying to create that huge, stark difference between himself and Joe Biden, including in the COVID-19. This last week, he has really made an effort to show that he is not willing to shut down this country. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think the country will allow it to be shut down. I think we're at the point that we are finally in COVID-19 fatigue. I think that people are starting to understand it's a virus, that use your own means and measures to protect you and your family members. And so I think that it's going to have a hard time, that message resonating. Everybody has to wear a mask forever, and you're going to have to shut down the country. So President Trump has created that. But one of the things that Kamala Harris and Donald Trump clashed on, not of course in person, but in separate rallies, was the fact that Donald Trump is saying, hey, I've done all of this with criminal justice. I've done all of this with jobs. I've done all of this movement for black Americans. What did Joe Biden do for you? And then Kamala Harris on the other end is saying we need criminal justice reform. We need jobs reform. And it's like, what closet have you been hiding
Amen.
in?
Where have you been?
Because President Trump, if you look back at what he's done over the last 4 years, he is the only president that has dug deep into criminal justice reform and has gotten that done, where now there is criminal justice reform. Black Americans are getting a much more fairer day in the criminal justice world. Not to say there's not still work to be done.
Oh, there is, but at least he started it. And there are people who are free today, who should be free today. It was ridiculous what had been done to them in some of these Democrat states. And so there are black people who are free today and who are out there making a difference and helping other people and back with their families where they should be, because of what President Trump has done with criminal justice reform. Well, we look at some of the black colleges who would always come, as President Trump said, hat in hand every year to the White House asking for their, this allotment of money that they usually get from the federal government. And President Trump's like, I love you guys, but why do y'all keep coming back every year? And they're like, well, we're expected to come back every year to the White House and ask the president for our money. And he said, why can't we just say this is set and it's done for the next 10 years? Love you guys. If y'all just want to come hang out with me, that's great. But you don't need to keep coming back and asking us for this over and over and over like they did under Obama.
Well, and again, the comparative differences have continued to come out in the last week and a half. I wish that President Trump had been doing this at debates and incorporating some of this into the debates.
Wish there would have been more debates.
Well, me as well.
Says the debate champion who loves debates.
Right.
JP's been doing debates since he was 2.
Pretty much. But the truth of it is this. The truth of it is that these differences have come out, and the rhetoric on the left doesn't carry the day. If you go back, people are so good about saying, well, I'm going off of the record. Well, then go back and look then, because Kamala Harris has not been a part of that as a U.S. Senator. In fact, she's been the most liberal U.S. Senator in the United States in the last 4 years, last 6 years. Go back even further to Barack Obama. And again, I have never badmouthed Barack Obama personally. It has always been something policy-wise that I have had an issue with. And it's not been badmouthing him, it's been breaking it down and comparing facts. Barack Obama had a chance to reform criminal justice, and he did not.
Right.
President Trump points out, hey, I didn't put kids in cages. No. Those cages were created during the Obama administration.
Right.
And that's a fact.
Right.
That's an undisputed fact. Whether you like it or not, if you're on the left, we had a young man named Gabriel that had come on, I think, from Periscope, and he'd made a comment about Trumpy, and he'll either get elected or he'll go to jail. And so here's the thing, right? That's great, Gabriel, but what about the atrocities? You claim President Trump has created all these atrocities. What about the atrocities of Democrat leaders? When do we hold them accountable? And Joe Biden was a part of that.
It's starting at the top of their ticket with here's what's so interesting. You've got President Trump, who was a bajillionaire. That's the new term for multi-billionaire. Okay, so he's a very rich man, very wealthy man, did very well in the private sector, has come to the White House, has given his salary, which is, what is the presidential salary? Like 400,000 plus or something.
Something like that.
And he gives that back to we the people, to the government. And then you've got Joe Biden, who has been a career politician. We're talking, okay, JP, you were in office 28 years and retired.
Right.
Right? So 28 years of service. Amazing job, by the way.
Thank you.
28 years of service, retired. You're now in the private sector, and we're in the entertainment, and now we're producing shows on our network. Please sign up. We're taking new shows now, which is very exciting, and we need to talk about our Veterans Day show too, telethon. But anyway, so JP, who 28 years is a long time in public service, but we've got to add another 19 years on top of that, and that's how long Joe Biden was in public service. So his entire adult life was spent, and beyond, was spent in public service. And somehow he got super rich off of that. So I want to know, what a congressional salary is, 100-something thousand. I think it's under 200,000. So, and he was a senator. I think theirs is probably about the same or comparable. I don't understand how. Now, if you get out and
Joe Biden ain't.
Well, there you go. And so
he created a family.
He did, where his son's getting rich, his brother's getting rich, everybody's getting rich. We're buying all these. We've got all these houses. I think one of his rent houses, he pays like $20,000 a month or something crazy. Please fix me on that quote if I'm incorrect.
I don't know.
Well, I'm asking the crew. If you know, let me know. But I know it's a way higher amount than I'd be able to pay on a rent house. So you just look at it and think he was unable to do in all of these years, even just a drop in the bucket of what President Trump has done in less than 4 years. And also President Trump is not getting rich. He took a downgrade in pay and moved from this amazing, apartment in New York to the White House, which is the most incredible, house I think in our country because of its historical perspective. But I just, somebody help me with this and help explain to me why you would cast your vote for Biden when you've got, Crooked Joe, or however you want to say it. How are they not being questioned and investigated this very second?
Well,
let's
and it's easy though to stay with the compelling comparisons on the actual issues themselves, right? So who is voting? There were 84 million mail-in ballots requested, which is probably what Charles was talking about, close to that 90 million mark. 40.8% of all voters nationwide voted early. 17.7% voted absentee, 5.9% by mail, and 17.2% early in person. So those are huge numbers, okay? Yes. Huge numbers. The number of ballots, now here's what's interesting. Mail-in and early in-person ballots returned, and this is again what Charles is talking about. 87,135,789 nationwide. 40% of those were in person, 60% of those were mail-in ballots. So here's the big comparison between the two. And this is what's happening. Black and Latino voters that traditionally will vote Democrat, that Biden and Harris pushed to go out and early vote, did not early vote, did not do mail-in ballots. However, the number of white non-college graduate voter is like 78%.
It's higher. It's interesting. JP, you and I have, we've been at this collectively between the two of us, over 70 years, probably close to 75 years between both of us with our experience. We've both been doing this well over 30 years here in Collin County and, in the state and the nation. We've helped out in races in other states. We've helped out in races all across the state of Texas and especially here in Collin County. And we've really hunkered down to help this cycle in Collin County. We are turning out, and we've always watched a trend. Even back when I was party chairman, I remember watching that the number of Republican voters was going down a little bit. The Democrats were increasing, and the Independents, or the Libertarian in particular, party was increasing. So that was always taking away a little bit from our trending cycle. So this time, the numbers of Republicans compared to Democrats turning out to vote in Collin County is almost 3-1. We're beating our numbers very much so from 2 years ago when it was a big Beto Cruz race. And we're beating our numbers from 4 years ago, which is the opposite of what you and I even had anticipated when we started talking about this, several months ago. People are, I think that silent majority has sat home long enough and they're out there voting. I've had so many people at the polls say, you know what? I didn't like Hillary and I didn't like Trump 4 years ago. I sat the election out. I am not sitting this one out, and I'm proudly casting my vote for President Donald Trump. That's saying something, that you sat home 4 years ago, but you're turning around and you're coming out and voting this time.
107% increase over 2016.
Yeah.
And again, these are non-college.
Wow.
These are non-college.
107%.
107%. These are and 233% over 2012. These are non-white, these are white non-college graduates, which means that the likelihood of them being a Trump voter is extremely high.
Right.
Extremely high. Again, we won't know until
right.
until we come back
there are
on
certain
Wednesday.
assumptions people can make. Well, and again, because you look at the demographics of who are turning out. Well, we just talked about this before the show. You were just in Arizona with your dad. Hi, Stan. We love you. Can't wait till you're in Texas. But in Arizona, your dad's home state, there was a 96-mile long Trump train parade with cars. That's making a statement. My goodness, where was he yesterday morning? The president, God, somebody help me out. Where was his rally? And it was super windy.
North Carolina.
Well, no, this is the one where it was snowing because he did two or three, maybe four
well, he's
rallies
in North Carolina
yesterday.
today. Well, he was in Georgia. He was in Arizona.
Was it Michigan, or he was.
He could have been. He was in the Great Lakes as well.
He was in. He's been all over. Which I'm just like, man, his schedule makes me tired.
He gets home at 1:30 in the morning,
and
tonight.
then pops back. He pops back up at 4:35 a.m. and he's back on the road. But he was in the middle of this huge snowstorm. I mean, giant snowflakes are flying all around. And all behind him, as far as the eye could see, and all in front of him, as far as the eye could see, were people. Now, there's this one guy, and I was like, oh, my goodness. He had on I loved his T-shirt. It said pray, and then it had the number 45. But all he had on was a T-shirt. He didn't have on gloves or a coat or a hat or anything.
Well, and in Green Bay, they had a huge rally. And Attila, one of our correspondents
yes.
up in Wisconsin,
Yep.
He was right behind the president with his license plates.
That was so great.
Coach Quigley, thank you for the picture on
Yeah,
that.
that was awesome.
I want to say good morning to Robin Austin. Robin has joined us.
Oh, hi, Robin.
So,
good morning. Welcome to the crew.
Good commentary as well.
Yes,
a lot of question about whether or not the election will be truly decided by election night or will be November the 15th.
Right.
Some have said December. And Robin's commentary is, hey, if there is a irregularity, there could be a challenge of the election, but it's going to come down to the courts determining the legality of the legitimacy of the request based in precedent and constitution. And I agree with her. It very well could be that.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. And this is not looking at statistics, not even even if I had not geeked out over a million numbers over the last few weeks. The feeling and the vibe and the people who are involved and who are getting out to volunteer, the people who are, I've never seen anything like this in all of my years in politics. I've never seen energy, excitement, tons of new people, enthusiasm, people coming out just saying, what can I do? You know, we were at headquarters yesterday and went door knocking, and I think I met 10 new people just yesterday, and that's in addition to the 50 people I already knew on a Sunday afternoon.
Absolutely.
So if you go on pure raw gut instinct, I think President Trump wins in a landslide, and I think he helps, especially in places like Collin County, solidify other Republicans down the ballot, as well as other parts of the country. I'm anxious to look at California, where you've got family, JP, and see if we don't pick up some. I know, I get it. With LA, we're not going to win. You know, we're not.
LA and San Francisco.
Yeah, that's going to force that state to go blue.
California
I get
will
it.
pick up Orange County and San Joaquin Valley.
And that's the thing. So those congressional seats, there's a big difference there.
Yes. Well, the San Joaquin Valley is Fresno. That's my area.
Right.
Very conservative.
Yes.
And that's where your farmers are. That's where your businesses are. It's where your workers are.
And all your family and friends out there have said, "Oh, I mean, they're all
Way
rallying red."
Yeah, very much so.
Right.
All right, to wrap this up and get ready to move into the mental health moment, we have got Patti joining us this morning. So excited for that. Just want to wrap this up real quick. It's interesting. NBC News has put out Decision 2020.
Right.
If this tells you how biased polls are, because I've got Republican friends contacting me, John, I'm so afraid of the polls. Please help me out, which is going to feed into what, Patti, we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, this is a great topic, Patti.
And they are. They're
Thank
feeling
you.
anxiety. They're feeling angst. They don't know who to watch tomorrow night. I've got friends that have reached out and said, what do I watch? Which results do I watch? And who do I believe? But this is how bad the media has become. So NBC News, they've put out Decision 2020, and guess what? Decision is spelled in light blue. You've got 2-0, the first 2-0 in red, but then the last 2-0 in light blue. Yeah. So you start light blue, finish light blue.
Is there a subliminal message
there? Is.
There?
We know what those colors mean. And it's funny, NBC has Joe Biden winning the election 51.5% to 44.4%, and just about winning every state. So I think that's interesting as well. So
then my gut will be so off. If that's the case, then I will have no idea of the pulse of how people are feeling, because I feel so differently about this.
So, but the transition into the mental health moment, which is brought to you by Acadia Healthcare, contact Chris Goetz for any of your healthcare needs, whether it be inpatient or outpatient. Somebody that you need to talk to. Are you having a mental health breakdown? Definitely Acadia Healthcare needs to be your go-to. They are the largest provider in the world, and so they have an expert somewhere that can help you. So you definitely want to contact Acadia Healthcare. So in talking about all of this election, you know, Patti, and your guest should be coming into the waiting room pretty soon, but you know, my question to you is, how much of this anxiety, this angst, all this that's surrounding this election has been media driven?
Oh, that's a lot. And in fact, we have a statistic that says over 2/3 of the American people are very much concerned about the fear surrounding the result and the anxiety and the stress. And there's so much written about, yes, how much are you exposing yourself to media? How much are you exposing yourself to social media? You know, are you listening to people that are just like jacking you up?
Right.
And
like, should you just turn it off and do like what I've been doing lately, watch reruns of The Office and 30 Rock?
There's a lot to be said for that, Kathy, because I think that we end up sort of self-inducing a lot of these issues and concerns that they're legitimate concerns, but you have to have
a break at some point.
You need to have a balance. You cannot have this 24/7. I think I see our guest coming in.
Excellent.
I'm very excited about our guest coming on today. And Patti, I won't steal your thunder. I'm going to let you introduce him. But just excited to talk about this because I know that I've got people that I have purposefully turned on to today's show for the Mental Health Moment to get this advice, to understand how they can maneuver and cope through the process of the results or the lack thereof, you know, on Tuesday night.
That's a concern also, John, and thank you for bringing that up. So John and I were talking last night, and the whole point is this is not a political show. There's plenty of opportunity to see politics going on.
You can do that all Wednesday.
And so we're gonna just jump right into our guest today, who is Tyler Harrell. He's the CEO of Greenhouse, and I would like for you to give us a little bit about your background, tell us about your organization, what you specialize in.
Hello. Well, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank y'all for having me. Everybody hear me okay?
Absolutely. Loud and clear.
Good. I'm zooming in from across town, so thank you guys for accommodating that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, my name is Tyler Harrell, and I'm the CEO of the Greenhouse Treatment Center. We're here in Grand Prairie, really close to I-30 and 360, kind of right in the middle of DFW. And we are a large treatment center. We're actually in a former spa. This facility was a spa for many years before it turned into a treatment center. And so it's, it's got all the nice amenities. It's a beautiful place. We treat detox. We treat residential care. All sorts of different types of drug and alcohol problems. But we also do a whole lot of mental health as well. It's co-occurring disorders, as I'm sure you've heard, and a lot of folks who seek out drug and alcohol treatment also have mental health issues. And so we do a lot of that, both in our inpatient and our residential treatment centers here in the Grand Prairie, Arlington area. We also have a large sober living in the area too. So we treat a whole lot of folks who need our help. So we're glad to do it.
How have you noticed, I guess, the response, the consciousness around your patients as we are getting close to the election? What is the conversation that they're having about concerns, if at all?
Definitely. I mean, it can be something as simple as, how do I vote when I'm not at home? We have people flying in from all over the country to seek treatment here with us. And so that's sort of one of the smaller problems, all the way up to, what happens if a candidate wins and I lose my health insurance, or I lose, my ability to seek treatment. And so, it's a wide range of concerns. A lot of it centers around anxiety, obviously. A lot of people are afraid of what could or might happen, the what ifs, the hypotheticals, in different circumstances. And, you've heard sort of both candidates, at least in my, limited what I've seen is, everyone mentions mental health and mentions substance abuse as a issue in the country today. And what's the plan for that? What are we going to see out of each candidate as we go forward? So, yeah, we've heard a lot from our clients, and I'm sure there's some counseling sessions going on about that back here on a daily basis. So.
Are you able to answer some of those questions for them about health benefits and issues that are medical related as well as substance abuse related and mental health?
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously a big struggle. The majority of people who come to our treatment are using their health insurance benefits. And depending on the carrier, depending on their sort of circumstances, it dictates maybe even how long they're able to seek treatment. And, is commercial insurance best? Is an Affordable Care Act an answer? I don't know, but we look for ways to get people in and to keep people in treatment. Obviously, we're not ever going to set anyone out on the street who really needs our help, who is here, but it's a big concern for them. I mean, we have clients who are on very serious medications, not only mental health medications, but, these Suboxone maintenance, medication-assisted therapies that, maybe prevent someone from using street heroin, opiates, fentanyls, things like that. And maybe their insurance doesn't cover that. That can be very costly. And so we have a whole group of case managers here who that's their day, is figuring out sort of where people are going to obtain these medications when they leave us, maybe even where they're going to live, basic sort of needs. And so I think that all rolls up into sort of what the political climate is and what those sort of either assistance programs or ability to keep insurance, pandemic as well. We saw a ton of people who had been laid off from their jobs seeking treatment. Maybe they had been sort of a functioning alcoholic or addict while they had work, and then they're laid off and things spiraled out of control. And guess what? Your benefits are ending at the end of the month. So, that can create a huge stressor for them. Sure.
It's interesting. Some of the crew is starting to give feedback. I don't know if you know, but as JP, Kathy, and the crew are our listeners and our devout supporters, and
they're
been
part
amazing.
of our show. We don't have the show without them.
And so we've got them on a chat line, of course, right? And so they chat in and text. And so Bob Gray says, I'm so broke down about all this voting stuff. A big part of me just don't care no more. Wednesday can't come too soon.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I did a little research before coming on this morning, and a lot of the stuff obviously centers around the 2016 elections, but there were things that talking about just you're not alone, really. I mean, stress is huge. And in 2016, there was a psychiatrist who coined the phrase election stress disorder. So not an actual medical diagnosis, but that came out of someone seeing a huge influx of calls. The psychiatrist says he was inundated and overwhelmed with distressed calls from his patients. And this is the 2016 election. So you can imagine, I think it's safe to say things are maybe a little more contentious even now than they were back then. And you could say now it's going to be as bad, if not worse. So I would say you're not alone in that regard.
Has any of the polarization of both sides, and I mean clear, defined lines, has that added to the tension, the anxiety, the angst, the concern? And then how do we cope with that after, post-election, no matter who wins? How do we come together as a country again so that we are mentally strong? Because this is mentally taking a toll on everybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're right in terms of coping. How do we cope is almost as important as the feelings we feel, if not more so, and we talk a lot here about coping mechanisms versus coping skills, and really is drinking and drugging a coping mechanism or a coping skill? Did I learn that? Or did that's something that's kind of naturally happened to me to help me deal with the way I feel? And I think it's important to say that you're not alone in this. And, statistics, 57% of Americans say the political climate is very or a somewhat significant source of stress for them. That comes from the APA. And so, it's not about having the stress. Stress is a part of life. It's what you do with that stress. Am I going to do something constructive or destructive? And do I have healthy outlets? Am I reaching for a drink, or am I reaching for friends and family or church or working out or whatever it is? How do I switch negative coping mechanisms into positive ones? And that's a huge part of what we do here in the treatment center.
So part of what you're talking about is something that one of their prior guests this morning, Dr. Clothier, was talking about. We've got a holiday coming up. We've got Thanksgiving. And for a lot of families, that's going to be wonderful. But for some families, that's going to be added stress, because we know that politics can divide families. So talk about coping mechanisms and coping skills for the holidays.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, even within families, there's a division between who's voting for who and beliefs. And we all hear the trope of you're sitting around the Thanksgiving table and one side thinks one way and the other thinks another. And you can imagine that if someone is preloaded to sort of maybe drink or use drugs to cope with that scenario, it's definitely going to be worse. I mean, one thing we encourage people to do is always have an outlet. Your family cares about you, but maybe your family can be part of the stressor. They maybe aren't helping. Maybe there's some hurt going on there, and that doesn't mean they don't care about you or love you, but it means maybe that you need to find your own sort of way to cope with that. And so in addition to that, one thing we've seen, with social distancing and the pandemic and everything going on, we've seen a decrease in mutual help groups, or as everyone calls them, AA and NA meetings. You can't be in one of those rooms when, you're limited to 10 people in a gathering or whatever it is, depending on where you are. So, that's made it all the more difficult for people to find that mutual help. What I would encourage people to do is not only reach out to friends and family who are a support to them or are someone who doesn't increase that stress, but also look more broadly in the community. There's tons of newly started community help groups that are online, just like what I'm doing here. You can Zoom in, you can listen in. AA meetings have gone virtual in most areas. There's even nationwide ones that you can, just find them with a quick Google search. We do a lot of those here in the treatment center in the evenings even, because folks would come in and run meetings, or we would take clients out to meetings in the community, trying to get them connected in the community. Well, obviously we're limited in that now. So not only are we stressed about elections, but we're also isolated maybe from those support groups as a result of the pandemic. So you see how these things sort of stack up, and adding layers to the cake or layers to the onion versus removing them. So yeah, it's an interesting time for sure.
Well, and Tyler, okay, so we've got Thanksgiving coming up, and then right after that, Christmas. There's already the stressors, as Dr. Clothier mentioned, of, okay, probably you should have family members wearing a mask and, try to practice social distancing. You're not going to have people cleaning up after each other like you normally do or serving each other food. So there's a lot of different things that can be emotional because it's not what we're used to, and it's not what we had a year ago with the pandemic. And don't we wish we could go back and everybody hug and love on their family members and get together with their family and friends and have everything be normal, quote unquote, this year. What do you do with the family who there have already been fights on social media? There have already been fights via text threads. There have already been people very angry one way or the other. It doesn't matter, whoever wins, whoever loses, there's going to be tensions. Do you recommend at some point, is it maybe safe to not attend a family function if you're going to be the instigator, or if you know that you won't be able to bite your tongue and not talk politics this Thanksgiving?
Sure. I mean, I think that's a personal decision that everybody needs to make. And I also think that families need to practice good communication and also boundary setting. I mean, that's something we teach very much here. And the idea that, someone can just say, look, I'm not able to come, here's why, and maybe not ruin that whole relationship. I think there's fear there too. I think people are afraid that if I don't go to Thanksgiving, mom or dad won't ever talk to me again, or they won't ever, and so people feel like they've got to subject themselves to sort of torturous times. But I think a healthy family is one that communicates, that says, hey, let's do this, let's think this through, let's talk about it. And open lines of communication are great, and being able to sort of express love and care for each other despite those differences is really important. I think, especially in families maybe who have a history of substance abuse or a history of mental illness, you have to be especially mindful of how you're communicating, and are you boxing people out? Are you further isolating them? Are you what they're relying on for support? And we cannot allow sort of situations like the ones we're in now politically to divide the core sort of family. This is a lot of people's only support groups. You go to work, you come home, and you do it over and over again. And who are you talking to? I mean, who are your confidants? And a lot of times that is your family. And so, we do a lot of family therapy here, and we do a lot of folks who maybe didn't even know addiction was an issue for their loved one, and that highlights lack of communication. It highlights sort of poor insight, poor boundaries even between the family and the one suffering from the addiction. So
you brought something up, as did Dr. Clothier earlier, and you made reference to the idea of work this out ahead of time. Because if we wait until we get to Thanksgiving and then somebody is stressed and then they have a drink and then they have another drink and conversation gets big, that is when it's going to explode. So let's talk, if you've got some ideas or some skills that you can share a priori, ahead of time. What can we do to reach out, and how do we do it productively so that it doesn't ignite the fire even before?
Right. Well, I mean, and look, when I say communication, I always imply sort of healthy communication. I know, Kathy, you mentioned earlier sort of fighting on social media and, comments.
I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Everybody's seen it. And it's family members, and it's people. I have friends who have been lifelong friends that I've known since high school and junior high that are fighting amongst each other, have blocked each other on Facebook. I'm like, y'all, we all grew up together. What is wrong with everybody?
Right.
People are saying things they wouldn't say to strangers.
Yes.
People are saying things to family members. They think they have
calling names.
They think they can get away with it. So we need professionals to help us.
Yes, we need you, Tyler.
Tyler, give not just some mechanisms like have another drink. Talk about the skills.
Right. Well, exactly right. And let me make a big difference between communication and healthy communication. And I even encourage families and loved ones here not to text, because so much is lost in texting. You don't get the connection, you don't get the meaning across. Healthy communication is face-to-face if possible, or maybe what we're doing here, or phone at the very least. That we would never, you couldn't imagine a therapist doing a counseling session via text or via a chat box or something. I know people are trying that, and I just can't imagine to be effective, because so much communication is nonverbal and is implied, and you miss so much. So that's the first thing, is I would encourage healthy communication. Maybe it's a text that says, hey, do you have time for a call later? Or, hey, could we all jump on Zoom later and talk about something? that's a healthy boundary setting, carving out time to talk. Oh, I'm too busy right now, I can't. That's a quick out. That's a way of avoiding talking about sensitive topics. And so I think that, healthy communication is really important, but then not only setting aside the time and having the good boundaries, but having compassion for the other person and saying, I hear you, or being open to that. I think if there's severe divisions politically or belief on the belief scale, you're going to be closed off and you're not going to listen to what the other person has to say. And I think it's important for everyone to be open-minded and for everyone to, remember this is a loved one. This is someone you love.
Right.
And you want to express that to them, regardless of what your beliefs might be versus theirs. So big difference between just communicating and good communication.
All right, let's take a station identification break. This is the JPKC Network. You are joined with JP, Kathy, and the crew. We come to you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 to 9 o'clock, bringing you up-to-date information, education, and entertainment. We want to thank Acadia Healthcare for their endorsement and support and sponsorship of the Mental Health Moment. The Mental Health Moment, of course, brought to you by not only Acadia Healthcare, but the minds of Patti and Steve with Something for Kelly and the Morgan Foundation. So we want to thank them for bringing mental health to the forefront here at JP, Kathy, and the crew. For all of your mental health needs, feel free to reach out to Chris Goetz and Acadia Healthcare, as they are one of the largest providers in the world, not even the country. You can contact them at 469-400-7489. That's 469-400-7489.
7499.
Oh, they got both.
Oh, they do?
They do.
Okay, good.
So they have both.
We're good.
So
And we'll put that in
992.
our feed, too.
Hey,
in the
cope.
comments.
You need a coping mechanism. Go get a drink or something. So
Yeah.
He's a coping skill.
Before 9 a.m.
So, Tyler, here's an interesting thing, and we've had a couple people make comments, and I'm going to do this tongue in cheek, but I'm actually being serious about it. It's not just politics that may still be looming at Thanksgiving, where we don't have a decision on who the president may be, which is, of course, is going to cause, and I'm curious as to how people need to not become violent verbally, mentally, and physically.
Yeah, you're right, JP.
During that time frame, but also the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, they are stinking it up. People, well, you say this, but people are watching them on Thanksgiving Day, and we don't have a presidential candidate. We've got this group of high schoolers playing with a star on their helmet.
No offense to high schoolers.
Right.
Because we've got some high school teams that could go in and play for
I might
them.
be able to help them out. Because I am a Browns fan, so I may
said
know
it.
how to
please.
cope.
Hey, breathe the intern, shut his microphone
yeah,
off.
Chambriel,
Goodness
please
gracious.
mute Charles.
So,
Thanks.
Tyler, again, I said tongue in cheek, but now in all seriousness, Cowboy fans are feeling despair. Thanksgiving is normally the big tradition to sit down, have a turkey, and watch them beat up on the 2-9 Detroit Lions back in the day, right? And so, or not the Lions, but the Miami Dolphins or whoever would come into town. But I mean, if you have all of that, how are people supposed to compartmentalize and cope with all of that that's going on into the holiday, and then on top of that, the holiday season?
Sure. Well, yes. Listen, there's as many stressors as there are things going on in the world. I always say to my clients, it's what's less important is what happens to you or what's going on in the world around you. What's more important is how you personally deal with it, and you can make you can make any of the topics you just mentioned fighting words around here, right? I mean, the idea that we've got families who not only disagree about politics, but now are stressed and now are drinking and now are. I mean, you can see it's rife with problems. And again, I think the idea that am I going to actively do something about the way I feel that's constructive versus destructive really is the first question you need to ask yourself. And if someone's been drinking all day and they've been fighting with their family all day, they're not going to be able to answer that question well. You lose that sort of frontal lobe ability to reason once you get a few of those drinks in you. So, I would encourage that you have a plan going into the holidays. Have a plan to not overconsume. Have a plan. If you tend to get argumentative or combative with your family, like let's plan not to drink. Let's maybe even plan, like we said earlier, not to attend those outings. I mean, there's different things we can do, but I think the important part is that I'm not just seeing what happens. It's like I said, skills versus mechanisms. A mechanism implies something is automatic, right? A watch is a mechanism. A car engine is a mechanism. It just automatically does something. Whereas a skill is something that I have learned and practiced. And so me not drinking and phoning a friend and, finding support outside of my family is something that I have to practice. Whereas maybe me drinking and getting angry and arguing with the people I'm around is something that just happens automatically. So I think that's an important way to think about, our own behaviors and not be, a metaphor I use a lot is not be the windsock in the wind. The windsock is blown in whichever way the winds go. If the Cowboys win or lose, or if my candidate wins or loses, I'm blown in that direction. And you cannot allow yourself to be a windsock, be dictated by what's going on around you. Think independently, try to help yourself to feel independently and be prepared for, unpleasant things to happen, particularly with the Cowboys. So.
I like the way you did that instead of going with the
Amen.
Yeah. So any ideas around ahead of time setting out boundaries? How effective are they? What are some good practices around what are we not going to talk about? What are we going to focus on? Are we going to focus on what we're grateful for? Give us some ideas about how effective we can be with boundaries before it gets out of hand.
Sure. Well, listen, I think any boundary is one that's achievable or doable. I think the wrong thing to do would be to set a boundary that says, if anyone mentions anything about politics, I'm getting up and leaving.
Good point. Yeah.
Are you really going to do that, right? I mean, it's got to be an achievable boundary.
Right.
Or you could say, look, if people won't talk about something else, then maybe I'll go in the other room, right? There's a difference there. So it's not this all or nothing that a lot of people think boundaries set.
Make a plan that, okay, maybe you don't want to go to the extreme of not attending a family function, but just let them know ahead of time, hey, if I'm in the room with y'all, I want y'all to know I love y'all, but if you start talking politics one way or the other, I'm going to excuse myself, and I don't want anybody to take offense to that. And or you know what I envisioned while you were talking, Tyler? I'm like, you know what? Kind of like a swear jar. So you have this big jar, and anytime anybody mentions the election, you have to put $5 in it, and then they do a drawing at Christmas, for which family member gets that jar of money.
It's a great idea.
Something I would suggest or throw out there as well is to change up your holiday routine a little bit. COVID-19 has definitely changed up our lifestyles.
Yes.
And so we're in a year of change. I think when everything is said and done with 2020, I think the biggest phrase will be, it was a year of change. Good, bad, or indifferent.
But lots of change.
Of change. So here's my thing. Why not change up the holiday routine, throw a curveball out there, and spend the morning with your mask on, socially distancing with gloves, handing out food at a church or a food bank.
Yes.
Or giving blankets out to the homeless, or going to a children's facility like a city house, and delivering a turkey. And of course, make arrangements ahead of time. But as a family, go out and give rather than taking emotionally from each other. And that maybe that changes the game a little bit, so it makes you realize there's a lot more to life than a presidential election. I don't know, Tyler, that's just my thought.
Yeah, no, that's great. Anything like that brings the family together in a constructive way. Again, there's constructive and destructive. There's mechanisms and skills. I mean, the way you think about how your circumstances are, sure, that's a great idea. Some people wouldn't be able to do that. Maybe they're elderly. Maybe they're not able to get out. But be creative. Be creative in terms of how you want to interact with your family and what do you want the outcome to look like. Do we want to be combative and never talk again, or do we want to have a nice Thanksgiving? And I think everybody would agree that they want to spend time with their family in a constructive way. And then, so maybe it's just figuring out how to do that. And I think communication is the biggest part of that. With any relationship, communication is hugely important.
All right. Patti, anything, to finish up here with Tyler? Tyler, first of all, amazing. Thank you so much for joining us here on JP, Kathy, and the crew. And would love to be able to tap into you again as an expert. And so
thank you very much.
Love that. Patti, anything final for Tyler?
I think that you touched upon it, and it's what the subject was all about, perspective. This is an election. Yes, it's important, but we're going to get through it no matter what happens. Yes, it's a major Cowboys game, if that's what we want to think.
Hey, that's a real thing.
But win or lose, we're going to get through it. We're going to, and we're going to get through it if we have the right attitude with each other.
Absolutely.
Regardless of how we vote, let's plan on getting through it together. I think it's really perspective.
And we need prayers for our nation. I know we've got a prayer that we're going to use to close up the show here in a little bit after our Reese's and Dove peanut chocolate challenge. But it's one of those things, like with social media, I would, and this is JP, Kathy, and the crew, we are challenging y'all, and Patti from the Mental Health Moment, we're challenging y'all to get out there, and the day after the election, whether your candidate wins or loses, don't be a sore winner. I remember talking to my kids about, don't be like, you lost, I won. Let's not go and be childish. You know what? If you stay off social media, if you don't think you can control putting something negative out there, or my goodness, post a puppy picture, post a scripture reading, post a great positive song, do something other than what your gut may tell you to do.
Thank you. And to do something positive, I'd like to do a quick 30-second commercial for our event this coming Thursday.
No, hold that
do.
thought. No. Hold that thought.
Okay.
Don't go there yet. I'm trying to get something taken care of over here. Hold that thought.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, hold that thought.
Back to perspective and something positive.
Well,
So
here's
hang
my
on.
thing. You ready for this? Again, 2020, I think, will go down in history as probably the year of change, whether we liked it or not. And I think, to me, Tyler, the thing that would drive home to me is go back to who your essence is as a person. Go back and find you and be you. Don't be social media. Don't be news.
Yeah, don't let
don't
the
be
negative
other
get
people's
ya.
opinions. Go back and be you, because I'll be honest, Tyler, my belief in humanity is that we are a loving, caring, sensitive people, and that we do want what's best for others, and we get confused, we get jacked
Taking off
up.
taking
I
off
like
that
using
track.
the word jacked up by others' influences. And so go back to your essence. And there's some bad people out there. Don't get me wrong. I've seen them sitting on the bench for 28 years and seeing over 100,000 inmates. I can tell you there are some bad people out there.
For the most part, JP,
The
you're
majority
right.
of them
and
are
most people
good
are just
people.
good people. So just go back to that kindness, and again, win or lose, no matter what happens, make sure, if like my mom taught, like y'all's moms taught y'all, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Just kind of set out for a couple of days, digest what's happened, and then let's get back to the business of helping our fellow mankind, taking care of ourselves and our family, and especially those in need. And there are plenty of people in need. We've got suicide is at an all-time high. My goodness, instead of getting on social media and saying, horrible things about whoever loses or wins or whatever, get out there and call some friends who you haven't heard from in a while. Call a family member who you haven't heard from. Drop by and put something on their front porch. Do something that
Or
brings
slap
them
a
back
Cowboys
around.
helmet on and go out and help them. One of the
JP,
two.
is that what you're doing?
That's what I'm going to do.
Okay, yeah.
Slap Cowboys
Watch
helmet.
JP
I'm going to be
play.
a good nose guard for
Hey,
him.
I'll take you as 4-string quarterback. Go for it, dude.
Yeah, no
we'll
kidding,
try.
right?
Might as well try it.
So, Tyler, thank you so much
you,
for
Tyler.
joining
Thanks,
us.
Tyler.
We appreciate you.
Yeah,
and
appreciate it.
Look
Thank you
forward
very
to talking to you again. God bless.
sir.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
on.
All right. So, were you able to help me out with the site? All right. Let's see if we can't get the site up. And now let's talk about the Something for Kelly Foundation and what they have going on. So go ahead, lead us into that, Patti. Super excited. I will be there Thursday night. So
Thank you so much, John. More than
Yeah.
I can express. So you all know who Something for Kelly is about.
Yes.
And the idea is that this year I'm incredibly excited because we are bridging the gap from science to solutions.
Yes.
We are starting with one of our very dear friends who this show is very fond of, Dr. Cynthia Bulick.
Love her.
She was
Love
on
her.
the show
Yeah.
recently, and she was talking about her newest research on genetics. So it's the intersection of genetics and eating disorders, including mood. So your relationship to anxiety, what goes on with you when you're having stress. And we are taking her research and we are putting it connected with treatment providers. So the whole concept is that there is a 17-year gap between research and solutions. And I'm fond of saying, thank you very much, everybody. I'm fond of saying that back in 1950, maybe 17 years would not have been outrageous.
Right.
But to John's point, this is 2020. This is the year of change.
it is.
Yeah.
And so we are going to dramatically reduce that gap from science to solutions. And we're beginning that solution this Thursday. We've got some tremendous announcements to make in addition to partnering with Dr. Bulick and UMC. And we've got some solutions we're going to be bringing on board. So,
and here's the website for it. And this is just a picture of Lavendo's where it's going to be at. I was there last year. It was we had it last year, right?
We did.
Okay, with COVID, I'm like lost in my
What was
time
last
frame.
year?
It was a beautiful event. My father was able to attend last year. He was with us.
He was.
And loved Cindy Bulick, Dr. Bulick, and Dr. Bulick loved my dad, too.
Imagine that. Everybody
imagine
loves
that.
Stan the Man.
Yeah.
And so, you definitely want to come out and support. Now, will you also be having a virtual event?
Yes.
Okay, so how do people watch it virtually?
They can go to that same site. You can send me a note to info@somethingforkelly.org, and you can stream this live. So we legitimately do have limited seats. This is not just a marketing ploy.
You have to.
Right.
Because
with COVID.
we're doing all
I've
of
got
the
the
appropriate...
URL up on the YouTube channel.
Fantastic.
Oh, awesome.
Fantastic.
very good.
Thank you
for that,
very
Charles.
much.
Appreciate that. You can go to that URL and you can either register to attend in person. By the way, we are going to have a 6-piece New Orleans inspired band. You will want to stream this even if you
love
cannot
it.
show up in person. We've got people from all over the country already signing up. There's no limit to the number. We are going to have 6 cameras there. We're going to have a live band. It's going to be really
fantastic.
an amazing evening, and we're going to do some major work connecting science to solutions. I'm beyond excited about this because the time for consciousness raising has passed. It's important that we raise the consciousness,
Right.
but that's been done.
Yep.
And now it's time to provide the solutions.
Do the work.
Yep.
Do the work.
Do the work. Make
There
the
you go.
Love
connection.
it. Oh,
All right.
just love it. So,
And
so,
so-
honored to be associated. We
Yes,
really are.
absolutely.
The JP, Kathy, and the crew are associated with a group like Something for Kelly and with you, Patty. Seriously,
Kathy.
we appreciate you and talk about making a difference in this world. You
This
guys
is an
are.
international issue. This is not a North American white girl problem.
Right.
And we are going to get 100,000 samples, which will be the largest ever on genetics and eating disorders. Wow. And we often talk about sample sizes, and this one's going to be very significant.
Where is Steve today? Where's the Morgan Foundation?
The Morgan Foundation was instrumental in helping us get some of these solutions. So I'm very excited
Awesome.
and proud for the Morgan Foundation. He is continuing that work right now. We are reaching out to the CEOs of so many, actually all of the Acadia groups, and he's already working on connecting with their CEOs. We have Eating Recovery Center, which, as you've mentioned frequently, Acadia is the largest international behavioral health.
Right.
ERC, Eating Recovery Center, is the largest one in North America focusing expressly on eating disorders.
Right.
So they are represented in 17 states. 7 states. I'm sorry, I got that.
Well, and tell Steve Dunn, Steve of the Morgan Foundation, we appreciate him too. We just appreciate y'all being part of the mental health moment, bringing the mental health moment to us, and being part of JP, Kathy, and the crew, because these are important topics, and I love it that y'all are out there and you're not afraid to talk about it, and you bring guests on who help us elevate to a level where we all need to be talking about
Well,
this.
it's also relevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very timely, very relevant. That's what I love about it.
Absolutely.
Well, you have been so instrumental in giving us this platform, and we do not take it lightly. And one of my terms that I have coordinated now for Something for Kelly, is gratitude is the new currency.
Amen.
Love it.
And we are so grateful that you all gave us this platform, because when I was first touched by an eating disorder because of my niece, Kelly, I was focused on eating disorders. And the more that I've done homework about this, the more I realize very few people just have an eating disorder in isolation. And that is what was the inspiration for the mental health moment. And the two of you all gave us this opportunity to explain that it's not simply an eating disorder. It's substance abuse, it's anxiety, it's stress, depression. And eating disorders are the manifestation. They aren't the cause.
Right.
So JP, Kathy, and the crew, you all are the ones that have allowed us this forum to make this difference. So God bless you guys.
And we love y'all.
All right, now
Thank
leading
you.
from that, we're going to eat chocolate.
Yay!
So
That's a
Chocolate's
good
good for us.
stress reliever.
It is. It is. It
in
absolutely is.
moderation.
Yeah.
And it's good antioxidant.
In moderation.
There you go.
Yay!
All right.
I was wondering. I noticed
So-
some chocolates everywhere, but on MySpace. So
Right. So, Charles, here's the question. All right. So, where's our blindfolds?
Your blindfolds.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be
Can
blindfolded.
you not close your eyes?
No.
Well, you
Well,
know,
okay,
you know,
take your mask and put it up over your eyes.
I was waiting for that. That's what I was waiting for.
You would know from the shape. We would have had to have had these cut up
But I
in
will
some other
say,
manner.
All right.
try them in which order you would like.
So I got to open them. So you're not going to
Okay.
feed us.
No.
No, COVID.
No,
you can't.
Well, then
COVID, man, COVID. I don't got
Oh.
no
COVID,
gloves.
you can't.
Oh, then we're already going
Ain't
to
got no
know
gloves.
Okay, so
what
we're
each
trying
one
to
is.
see.
That's
So
right.
We're already going to know.
Taste test.
That's
Yeah,
but
like
see,
which one do you like better?
it doesn't matter which one you.
So I'm
Because
going with
you're gonna
Dove.
know. You're
I'm-
gonna know.
I'm going with Dove first. I'm going to set
Okay.
the palate.
Okay.
I'm going to set the palate because I can smell the Reese's. My nose has already got the Reese's.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, from a smell standpoint, I can smell the chocolate and the peanut butter, but not as strong as the Reese's.
Okay.
So, smells good. Let's see. It's got good texture. So I like the texture, and it doesn't come off on the wrapper. I got the full chocolate. All right, here we go. Can you hear me chewing in the microphone?
I don't know.
I've already done my Reese's taste.
Now we can hear you.
You're
John.
right.
That's good.
With the smelling on the Dove, you can't smell the peanut butter as prominently as you do on the Reese's. So I'll try this one now.
Very smooth, very elegant. The Dove chocolate, definitely like a fine scotch. Hold on. And the peanut butter was very smooth as well. It wasn't chunky. It
Not
wasn't
as
dry.
sweet. Not as sweet.
So very tasty. But now let's go with the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. Let's see. Gotta get on my palate.
Is that what that
Got to
sound
get it on the
is?
microphone.
So a lot more peanutty, less chocolatey. Got a better blend with the Dove. I think I'd go with the Dove.
Now, you know what? I love Reese's. Have always loved Reese's. I would go with Reese's just as a go-to with a nice glass of wine, with a piece of the Dove dark chocolate with peanut butter. I would do that like for actually like after dessert. Like if I had friends over or something, or if we had a nice meal, I would serve a nice glass of red wine and the Dove. That's a kind of a special occasion.
So
But
I
the
agree with
Reese's
you.
you can eat every day, like
The
when you're in your
Reese's is
sweats.
a Pabst beer
Yes.
in Green Bay.
Which you dig. What you dig, you like. You can eat it any time.
But the Dove,
It's more of an experience.
it's the microbrewery.
Yeah, it's
There you go.
more of an experience.
Yeah.
Both good. That's interesting. I had no idea Dove was doing
I was
one with
didn't
I was
peanut
just
butter
going to
now.
ask, is that new?
I
it
guess
it
so.
must be.
And Bob Gray says,
How
it's
did I
not
ever
new.
know?
that an
I didn't
expert
know
right
about
there,
that.
JP. Thanks, Bob. Hey, Bob, you don't get to be this cool looking by not eating. Just letting you know.
Yeah.
I
Just
love it.
FYI.
Just
Well,
FYI.
and
I do like the dark chocolate on the Dove, though. I'm
Again, smooth.
if you
I'm
like
a-
that dark chocolate,
I'm
See, I
yeah.
want a
dark
little
chocolate
raspberry
girl.
with this too.
Oh, I love
that would work.
There is one that has raspberry in it.
Yeah, but I mean
That's
just
really good.
raspberries though.
Oh, yes.
Like a couple
I would-
raspberries.
but I wouldn't want to mix the raspberries with the peanut butter.
Oh, I don't know. The peanut butter's smooth. I think it would work.
I don't know.
Now with the Reese's peanut butter,
We
no.
bring in raspberries next. Oh, no, I
okay.
would no,
Raspberries
no,
and
no, no.
Dove.
And I would
So
not drink a
that's-
nice glass of red wine with a Reese's. So,
So
No,
how
you're
do
right
you
about that.
know? How do you know that Kathy and I could talk about anything for 5 hours? Because we've just spent 6 minutes
we can.
on describing a Reese's peanut
you
butter
go.
cup and a Dove
There you
piece
go.
of chocolate, and could probably pontificate for another 30 minutes.
we could.
It's a gift.
Yeah,
well,
it's a gift and a curse.
or a
yeah,
crime.
Peter
One of
Parker.
the two.
It's a gift and a curse. I want to make
I
sure.
call it a crime.
I'm doing Spider-Man. I'm doing Peter Parker quote. It's a gift. It's a curse. We want to make sure everybody tunes in from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock today for a special edition of Heart and Soul of Texas Women. We have an individual a pastor on the show her and her husband are part of the Trump prayer team. An amazing woman. She was one of the ladies who opened up the RNC convention in prayer. Interestingly enough, the show we're not going to make it political. It's going to be about healing our nation and about using prayer. And in that, because we do have a big election tomorrow and we know people are taking both sides. I wanted to read this prayer that I've carried around in my phone for several political cycles that I got from a friend of mine at Plano Republican Women. It's a prayer for revival in America. 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and heal their land.
Amen.
Be kind to each other moving forward, no matter who wins, who loses. Get out there and vote. Let your voice be heard, or else you have not earned your right to gripe. You got to vote to gripe.
Especially this cycle.
Woo! Amen.
But yeah, voting, get out there 7
Yes.
to 7. Go to vantaylor.com to find out what the polling times are. I will be voting tomorrow. I'm not sure where I'm voting at yet, but I will be voting tomorrow.
Go live from there.
I am
yeah,
going
go
to.
live.
Good
But
idea.
get out and vote. Record numbers have voted. And so we want to
Be
continue
part of
that
those
trend.
record numbers.
All right. Everybody have a very blessed day. Have a very blessed voting day. We will see you on Wednesday.
Big old wrap
now,
up.
hey, are we doing any election coverage this year or no?
We'll probably go live a couple of times from the party in Frisco that the Collin County Republican Party is having. I'll be there in the war room crunching numbers all night tomorrow. Yeah, we can go live. Especially if you're there. Yeah, go live. Interview some folks in the crowd, and everybody's welcome to the party. Just you have to sign up ahead of time. But,
And bring your mask and don't come if you're sick.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, exactly. All that kind of good stuff. We love you.
And we're waving to Charles.
Wednesday will be wrap up.
Wednesday wrap up. Have a blessed day,
Love
everybody.
y'all. Bye bye.